Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. I'm your host and the editor of Guns Magazine, Brent Wheat. We've got another interesting show. I'm talking to Roy Huntington, and we're going to try to demystify snake shot. Well, Roy, I'm grinning because I was thinking if this was Gun Cranks, I'd start out with the snake. But it's not. We got to be halfway serious here on the Guns Magazine podcast. So thanks for joining us. Today we're going to talk about snake shot demystified.
It's right. I think it's important we talk about a few things here. So,
well, it was interesting and timely. You brought this up, but at the same time, there was a email thread, and I'd love to show the picture. Dr. Will Dabbs sent all of us, Tom McHale, and I think you and me, he whacked a giant water moccasin on his pond down in Mississippi, and it is a horse of a cottonmouth, but I haven't asked him yet if I can show the picture, so I won't pop it up in our chat here, but hopefully by the time we get this edited, I can show the picture. It's a horse of a water moccasin about the size of probably my upper arm. This thing was a beast, but he got it with snake shot, and knowing Will, he probably not only loaded the shell himself, he probably made the shot. He's probably got a shot tower on his property, but you were talking about it at the same time, and being late summer, and snakes are out and about and running wild. Now, before we get started, before there's any ugly emails, we acknowledge that snakes are a vital part of the ecosystem and they shouldn't be needlessly harassed and whatever, okay? I've got a live and let live relationship with snakes. You leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. And if you're non-poisonous and you kind of, not frighten, but startle me, I'll let you go about your business as long as you're not somehow impeding my life. But if you're a poisonous snake, I almost consider it an act of public safety. If you're in an area, a campground, across a trail, we may take lethal action. So, Roy, you've shot quite a few in your time, and you've got more poisonous snakes down there in extreme southwest Missouri. So let's talk about snake shot demystified. What's the first thing you think people don't understand about it?
Well, first of all, I don't think they get used for snakes that often.
Okay.
I think most people buy them because they've never really been exposed to it, and they see a CCI 10-pack, and they're just like, well, I'm going to try these and see what they do. And then they shoot a potato or something, But, I mean, you're right. We have copperheads around here, and I sort of do the same thing that you do is if we're in the woods and we see a copperhead, we always say, wow, look at that copperhead, but I've had them in my garage on the seat of my tractor. Ooh. Susie likes to pull weeds around the very base, the concrete foundation of the house, and the snakes love it there because it's cool. Yeah. And she's frequently got coming inside with a headless copperhead. It's the little tiny ones that are there all the time. But other than that, we're pretty pro snakes. She's always taking pictures, a selfie or something with her with some black snake wrapped around her arm that she found or something, so it's not that.
Sorry, wrong. No.
I know. You know what? I'll try to remember to send you a picture or two, and you could post one of those pictures.
Okay.
Because it is pretty funny. But when I moved to Missouri is when I really started to learn more about the shot cartridges. And for people who don't know, the most common one is CCI makes them. And right. They're now I think they're all blazer based cases, so they're aluminum cases, and they usually have a blue or red plastic shot capsule, and that's full of shot. And then they sell them in these little plastic 10-packs. They're very convenient. I mean, you don't really shoot a lot of them, so a 10-pack is probably going to last you, quite a while, unless you're overrun, somewhere. But when I came here, I really got a lot of them, and I did some testing, and I found out some interesting things. Is that they make a .22 long rifle shot cartridge, and it's loaded with like dust. I mean, it's smaller than number 12 shot, I'm sure. And and it's pretty much not effective for anything.
Okay.
I mean, it really isn't. Yeah. If you're like a foot away from some heavy cardboard, it won't make it through the cardboard, I mean, I imagine if you were a foot or two from a mouse, it might at least wound it long enough that you could hit it with a rock. So I would stay away from those unless you just want to pop a balloon or something,
Yeah.
I actually I did some experiments chasing wasps flying with that. And if you get like 6 inches from a wasp that's flying, you can shoot him down like a Japanese Zero from World War II. But if you're just like a foot away and you shoot, usually the shot disperses so fast and it's so fine, they turn around, they look at you and they go, "What did you just do?"
I'm going to sting your eyeball.
Then you do the wasp dance and run inside, So yeah, pretty much stay away from those. Sorry, CCI, but that's the truth, And but when you get to, they make a 9mm one that won't run the slide of a 9mm because there's not enough momentum in the slide. But you can single feed them or run it through the magazine. They make one that's a 45 ACP. But I find the most useful ones are the 38. They're 38 357 ones, and so they've got. I wrote it down just so I know. So the 38 has you can get the hot shot, I think they call it, and it's number 4 shot, and it weighs 84 grains. And normally you see the blue one is number 9 shot, and it weighs 100 grains. And so the velocity is in the sort of 850 to 1,000 feet per second, right in there. It's a little hard to do the velocity over a chronograph because you're shooting a shot column,
right.
And I have shot my chronograph before. But I found with those, now suddenly you've sort of entered into an arena where they're actually pretty effective. I mean, if you do have a compelling need to shoot a snake and you're within 3 or 4 feet of it, with one of these 38 9mm 45 ones, that's pretty much going to do the job.
Yeah.
If you're a little bit farther than that, or you're looking at a big rat or something like that in the pole barn, you're kind of at the edge of not really good enough. They came out with the red plastic ones because it's full of number 4 shot, so it's heavier, so it penetrates better. But what I found is that there's not as many, and it disperses worse. So while it's technically more effective, you still have to stay close.
Yeah.
When I used to drive the tractor, we used to mow a pasture here, and when we first moved here, it was all full of field rats. But just like they were everywhere. And so I thought, well, I'm going to take care of this problem, and so I got some of these CCI 38 special shot cartridges. And what I found was from the seat of the tractor down to the ground. So you're looking at, 8 or 10 feet, I suppose. If you shot a rat with one of these, then sometimes it would die and oftentimes it would run away, And so it was really a learning curve for me. I thought, well, this is interesting. I thought these are going to be more effective because a lot of people buy them and use them as a defensive firearm. And what they say is that they say, oh, well, the first 2 shots is going to be shot cartridges and I'm going to blind them and they're going to run away. And I'm going to, and it's, well, based on my experience, that's a very silly thing because, I mean, if he's more than 6 feet away, if he just shuts his eyes, that's probably going to solve, the problem there. And they're certainly not going to penetrate any kind of clothing or anything.
Yeah, the shot cartridge, not really a self-defense option.
No, I mean, if you had muzzle contact, that would probably be pretty effective. But what I found then was that I stepped up to the 45 Colt, 44 Magnum, 44 Special range of these shot cartridges. And so I made my notes here. So the 44, you can get number 4 shot and it's 110 grains. Or you can also get number 9 shot, and they weigh about 140 or 150 grains. And well, suddenly, even the number 9 shot from a 45 Colt or 44 Magnum was really effective. If I shot a rat from the tractor seat, I mean, they were dead right there.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was. I think they might be higher velocity, but the shot cloud was denser.
Yeah.
and man, they were really effective. I was very surprised by it. And so I did more experimenting then, and I used potatoes because I thought, well, that's a good size, and it's
right.
if
it's rat size.
Yeah, it's rat size, and if it can penetrate the skin of a potato and then get into the, that's pretty good. And that's when I learned that the 22 is basically just you shoot a potato, it just sits there and goes, yeah, what was that, and when you go to the 38 357 Magnum and you shoot a potato, this is from call it 3 feet away,
Yeah.
Sometimes it would like knock it off the counter that I had it on, but a lot of times it wouldn't. It just kind of spin it around a little bit. You would usually show decent penetration, but it was, in my opinion, it was always kind of borderline that if I was really going to use it to kill a potato, I would want to be a foot or two away, not a yard or 2 yards away, because they advertise these, I think, as being effective within a couple yards, and I think that might be pushing the envelope a little bit. But do the same test with a 45 Colt or a 44 Magnum, and it shreds this potato. You end up with breakfast shredded potatoes, and knocks them off the counter. And I mean, it's really substantially more effective. And so that's why when I carry them, I always, use the 45 Colt or 44 Magnum. But I ramp the game up because as effective as these are, and I mean, if you were hiking a trail and you were with your family and you had a J frame in your pocket with some 38 shot cartridges, that would probably keep you out of trouble, because people talk about, I have to shoot, what's the best round to shoot snakes? Well, sometimes I just pick up a rock or a stick, or if I have boots on, I go, but you just crunch them under your boot if you want to. So they're not, really anything that bad. So you can easily get within 2 or 3 feet of a snake and you pop it. Now that you're done. And having a shot cartridge is safer than using a 22 or a centerfire gun because, it's not going to ricochet or, who knows what else. So, but when Taurus came out with the Taurus Judge, I thought, this is interesting, and for those who don't know, that's a 45 Colt 410 revolver. And I thought, well, heck, if the 45 Colt or 44 Magnum shot cartridges are effective, this was probably even more effective. And so about the time Taurus came out with, it was a polymer frame Judge. I don't know what they called it, the Poly Judge, or I don't know what they called it, but it's lightweight, short barrel. So I got one of those, and I'm here to tell you, if you're serious about this, a 410, 7.5, 8, 9 shot from a Taurus revolver will solve whatever problem you have.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really effective. I mean, it's just shreds. I mean, suddenly 3, 4, 5 yards away is doable.
Interesting. I never thought of that, because if you're in a situation where you encounter snakes a lot, say you're working around a feed lot, or, a situation like that's your biggest concern in life is running into a copperhead or something like that, a Judge with shot cartridges might really be a consideration.
Well, and it's really overkill for snakes. It really is. Suddenly 5 yards away, you can kill these field rats instantly. I mean, it's really effective. The only challenge is, and I think this is a challenge for all of these shot cartridges, is that the rifling that it's in the bore of whatever handgun you're shooting from tends to deflect the shot pattern. And so if you aim at the center of a target, you'll see that the shot is usually sort of favoring, depending on the direction of your rifling, favoring one side or the other. And it also, because what it does is that it breaks open the plastic cartridge, right? So then it kind of destroys that, and then the shot cartridge runs down the rifling, but the rifling is engaging some of them.
Yeah.
So by the time they get out of the gun, they're kind of lost their mind and they're strewn all over the place. So you need to keep that in mind. I think if you could have, of course you can't, because it would be a short barreled shotgun. But if you could have, in a perfect world, a 38 or revolver with a 4-inch barrel with a smooth bore, I think these things would be really effective.
Yeah.
Because suddenly you could do it. As a matter of fact, I made a video yesterday, which we'll be seeing in First Looks, and I have a pre-war Anschutz 9mm rimfire shotgun. It uses what's called a Flobert round, and so it looks like a 38 special kind of, but it's a rimfire and it's a shotgun, and it's got number 12 shot in it, or no, number 10 shot, but it's a smooth bore because it's a long barrel gun, and they used to call them garden guns, and they were made for and you keep it and you use it to shoot the critters that are eating your tomatoes, and so I demonstrated. I shot it at about, I don't know, like 3 yards, I think, or something, and wow, you just get this well centered, perfect, nice shot, pattern, just like you were using a real shotgun with like a cylinder bore. I was so impressed by it. And then I balanced that with shooting a 38 special one out of a 4-inch K frame at the same distance. I use a number 4 shot one, and it's like all over the target. And sorry CCI, but that's the truth. So what did we learn? We learned, don't rely on any of these for self-defense. Maybe the judge with 410, if you had to, but certainly not the other ones.
Well, I was going to bring up too, and you and I just discussed it recently, that if you've got a severe rat problem, there are better options. Go on YouTube, look up airgun hunting rats, especially down in Australia. Apparently rats are more abundant, or they don't keep their feedlots as clean, but there's quite a number of guys that do, especially like thermal imaging or IR type rat hunting. And there's one guy that that's what inspired me to tell Roy about it. And I think Roy's already seen him, but this guy is whacking like 500 or 600 rats a night with a air rifle. And oh my goodness. And this guy's using a 22, but yeah, if you've got a lot of rats around, pretty spectacular way. They pretty much just fall over. Because when you think about it, hitting a rat with a 22 pellet going, 900 feet per second, it's like getting hit by something this big for us. It solves the problem right away. But
it's true.
It's a long gun, so it's not like you're going to be carrying it when you're out feeding the chickens or whatever.
No. I think the takeaway from this, though, is that if you buy a 10-pack of these, 38 357 ones or something, I think set up a target, shoot one at a foot, shoot one at 3 feet, shoot one at, 2 yards or something. So then that way you really get your head around what does it really do, and put up a couple pieces of cardboard and staple your target on top of it. And you'll see, once you get back a little bit, they don't penetrate the cardboard. So, yes, mice and rats and snakes and, little vermits like that. I know people will be mortified, but I know some people who are overrun with chipmunks, and they use this and they shoot chipmunks with it, which I know my wife is tearing her hair out now hearing this because she likes our chipmunks. But that's...
Let me interject, though. Our previous home, we had some neighbors that didn't take care of their backyard, and I discovered belatedly that they had a chipmunk habitat, and we started seeing them a lot getting into our bird feeders and all that, because we feed the Tweety birds, and yeah, they're cute. And then we started noticing they were up at the house, they were digging in our flower pots, and I thought, I need to thin the herd a bit. And that was right before we moved, and I finally went from air rifle to traps, and my kill in like 2 weeks was 26 of them, and I suddenly realized, Houston, we have a problem. They're rodents, and they breed like rodents, so if you see one, you've probably got 20 represented by that one. So chipmunks are cute, as they'd come up and they'd sit on our patio. And then when we started seeing 2 or 3 or 4 of them at a time, and they're destructive little things. So I went from being, oh, that's cute, to, one of them's fine, but dozens of them is a bad thing.
That's a good point. But I think if you have these and, your concern is that you live in the country in a periodic snake and, you've got the heebie-jeebies, you don't want to get close enough and cut its head off with a hoe, well then, yeah, these are probably effective for that. I actually shot a gray squirrel with one of these 38 special shot cartridges that he showed poor judgment in letting me get this close, but I was probably 2.5 yards away, give or take a little bit. And he just like jumped up in the air and ran away. It's like, why'd you do that? Ran up a tree and then was yelling at me from in the tree. So that painted a vivid mental picture. So they're for fun. If you want to try to shoot wasp, get the 22 long rifle ones. And, but otherwise, please don't rely on them for personal defense. They do not make the best first shot up your gun. If you're interested in not killing a bad guy, then don't have a gun.
Good point. Good point. And I will say, when you brought up wasps, I never would have thought using these for wasps, but Will Dabbs, going full circle, he wrote up the Bug Assault. I called it a rifle, but it's not really. It's a toy, but it shoots salt. And he discovered they're quite effective. And the funny thing that reminds me of that is the fact that, first of all, I kind of hesitated putting it in the magazine because I thought it's really a toy. But I thought, okay, Will wrote a great story as always, and it shoots salt, so I guess it falls in the sphere of guns. But I thought I'll put it in there as a fun little thing. That's been at least a year ago. To this day, I still get emails about that. And I got a couple saying, it's not a gun, it shouldn't be in the magazine. But the vast majority of them were like, this is cool. These things work great for flying wasps and all that stuff. So I wasn't prepared to talk about it. I can't remember. Go to gunsmagazine.com and check out the Bug Assault. And I keep reminding myself, I've got to get one too, because late summer, we're in the wasp season. And I just put in a little pond and a little waterfall. And the stupid mud wasps have found that, they really like this, and I don't want to mess with them. Again, that's kind of if you're not bothering me, but these are bothering me and my family, so I need to get me a Bug Assault. So check that out. That's your tip of the day.
Be careful, because I have a Bug Assault, and if you get right up on it, for people who don't know, it's like, well, first look it up. It's a Bug Assault. You'll find it. But it's like a shotgun, but it shoots salt. Right? And with a little air pressure, you just pump it one time, it does it. If you put the muzzle like right up against a wasp that's sitting there and shoot it, you'll like knock it senseless long enough for you to stomp on it, But if it's more than about 4 or 5 inches away, it just pisses it off. Is all.
Okay, good to know.
It doesn't. No. I did see some the other day. Bug Assault makes a new gun now. It looks like this big bright orange Smith & Wesson revolver. And it uses CO2 cartridges, and it uses some kind of a preloaded salt cartridges. And
really?
It's in this like little magazine thing. And so you put it in the gun, and I saw it demonstrated. Somebody on a YouTube channel had it, and it killed wasps right now. I mean,
really?
Dead right there. Yeah. And they're like $140. So lean on Will, because I sent him a link and he said, they sent me one, but I haven't really played with it yet. And I said, you need to play with it. It's pretty cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get on the horn as soon as we're done here and say, Will, where's my review? I want to see it.
Yeah.
So.
And jump on Amazon or something and look at Bug Assault, and then you'll see the revolver one pop up. And it was pretty interesting. So, all right.
Well, I didn't think we'd end up talking about toys, but good information. And again, to reiterate, they work. Go with the bigger calibers. Go with 44 if you can, but keep in mind the limitations. They're not a shotgun, and were never intended to be.
Yeah.
So,
well said.
Well, Roy, you vermin killing thing there at your palatial farm in South West Missouri. I knew. See, I've shot them before, but I've probably shot a handful in my entire life, so I don't know much about them. But I knew Roy would have not only used them, but tested them extensively. So hopefully we adequately covered our topic of shot cartridges demystified. So, Roy, Once again, thanks for joining us.
You bet. Always fun.
Well, as I had to admit during our conversation, I don't have that much experience with snake shot cartridges, but of course Roy has, and he's even tested it on the deadly potato. Hopefully you got some good information out of our talk. Well, that's it for this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. On behalf of all the folks here at Guns Magazine and FMG Publications, I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent Wheat reminding you, now get out there and get shooting.